All right. Hey guys, with only about a month left of your senior year, we are officially winding down on the school year. So, that being said, I just kind of want to talk about the importance of these next couple weeks in your econ class. Everything that I'm going to be giving you from here on out is definitely not going to be busy work. One of my favorite parts about the end or about teaching the end of econ and focusing on these units is how applicable this content is to you guys and to the real world. So everything that we're going to be learning on this point forward is hopefully going to be really beneficial towards everything you're going to need to know heading into college and heading into the real world as adults. So what we're going to start that with is learning about the GDP, otherwise known as the gross domestic product. So, what you guys are going to do, go ahead and get out a piece of paper or your econ notebooks, so that, or you can take notes on your computer, that's fine as well. But I would like you guys to be taking notes while I kind of walk you through this PowerPoint. So, you can go ahead and pull the PowerPoint up now, or you can go ahead and pull it up later just to refresh your memory when you're re-looking at it. But I do want you taking notes because, again, everything that you're going to need to know is not necessarily written on the PowerPoint, right? It's going to come from the way that I'm explaining things. So go ahead, get a piece of paper, get a pen out, and we'll go ahead and dive in. So gross domestic product, or the GDP. That's the dollar value of all final goods and services produced in a country's borders within a given year. Okay, so when we talk about the GDP, we're going to be talking about the United States GDP. So the dollar value of all final goods and services produced within the United States. You'll notice that we use the term final goods and services. The reason we use the term final is because we are counting everything that's produced in its finality rather than intermediate goods. So if we think, for instance, about the t-shirt that you guys might be wearing right now, that's probably made of cotton, right? Now, when we calculate the GDP, we are not calculating the dollar value of that cotton separately from the dollar value of the cotton being used to produce your t-shirt, right? We are just talking about the dollar value of the said t-shirt that happened to utilize that cotton. Now, if you were to purchase cotton swabs to clean your ears, or cotton balls or cotton pads to take off your nail polish with nail polish remover, that cotton right there, that would be a final product. Okay, you can think of the same thing. For instance, the chair that you're sitting on, maybe it's made of wood. Okay, but what's going to be calculated into the GDP is the final product. So, is that chair, not the wood used to make the chair. If it was wintertime and your family bought wood logs to light the fire to keep your living room warm, you could count that wood in the GDP because that right there is the final product. Okay, so that's the difference between an intermediate good and a final good. So, how do we calculate the GDP? How do economists come up with this number? And is it perfect? First of all, no, it's not perfect. Economists they're forced to kind of have to give their best educated or estimated guess when they're determining the GDP. So, there are going to be two approaches or two ways in which economists are going to attempt to figure out what is the dollar value of all of the final goods and services produced in the US? Okay, the first approach that they're going to use is something called the expenditures approach. Okay, and what the expenditures approach does is it takes into consideration four different categories, and they're going to use these categories to then create what they come up with as the number for the GDP. The first of those categories is consumer goods and services. Okay, so that's how much is spent on both durable goods and non-durable goods that as consumers in the United States we purchase. The difference between durable goods and non-durable goods, if you think about the term durable, it's um, durable, it's heavy, it's steady. Those are going to be our goods that last for a long period of time. Examples of durable goods would be a car, a dishwasher, a washing machine, a refrigerator, right? You don't go out and buy a new one of those every single year. Our non-durable goods, on the other hand, are going to be products or services that we consume over a shorter period of time. Okay, so that might be our fresh fruits and vegetables, right? That might be tissues, that might be toilet paper and paper towels. You're going to throw those away after a one-time use. Okay, so that's what falls under consumer goods and services, are these durable goods and these non-durable goods. The second thing that economists take into consideration is investment. When I'm talking about investment, we are not talking about investing in shares of stocks in the stock market, not that type of investment. When we're talking about investment, we're talking about investing in a business. Let's say your friend wanted to start their own pizza shop and they wanted you to invest in their company, that's the type of investment we're talking about. Okay, so the money that's needed to start new businesses, for example. That's the second thing, okay, investment. The third is going to be everything that the government creates, makes, manufactures. They don't do a whole lot of this, but the government is responsible for creating some products, some services for the United States. And so that would be factored in as a separate category. And then this last one is the net exports and imports of goods and services. So that's going to be the total of what a country is importing and what they're exporting. Are we going to have a negative net export or are we going to have a positive net export? So just as a little side note, the United States imports more than we export. Okay, we buy more than we sell. So we buy products from other countries more often, or we spend more money on what we're buying from other countries than what we are selling to other countries. Now, this might sound kind of backwards, but the United States actually does this intentionally. And the reason that they do this is because, let's say, we buy cars from another country. We are giving them the American dollar when we are exchanging money for said car. What this is going to do is it's going to incentivize other countries to then spend our money that we've given them on American products or to invest in American businesses. So by buying more than we sell, the United States is actually getting our money back. So that's just a little bit of a side note, but the US intentionally imports more than it will export for that reason, so that we can make more money. Okay, so all of those four categories, the consumer goods, investment, government goods and services, and then the net exports and imports, all of that will be added up to the GDP under the expenditures approach. Now, another approach that economists utilize is called the income approach. And what the income approach does is it takes a look at how much money, what the income of every single American is. Okay, they do this when taxes are filed, right? They're not just asking every single person in the US, hey, what'd you make last year? They're figuring this number when we file our tax returns. The reason that they'll utilize the income approach is because we can assume that most of what people earn, they're going to be spending, right? That's where the bulk of their money goes, is towards spending on other goods and services. Um, so if we take Maranatha as our example, we know that Maranatha earns money from y'all and from your tuition. They then utilize that money and they spend it, right? They're paying their employees, for instance. So they're paying people like me. And then that's my income. What I'm doing with that income is I'm paying rent, I'm buying groceries, I'm making my car payments, right? And then everybody who's receiving my money, that goes into part of their income, which then they're going to spend on the products or the goods, the services they need to live their life. Okay. So economists will utilize both approaches when calculating the GDP. They like to look at both and then make adjustments accordingly. But just as a general rule of thumb, the income approach is actually more accurate than the expenditures approach is. Okay, so why is the GDP important? Why is it applicable to you? How is it measured? In order to answer that, we need to take a look at these two key terms, nominal GDP and real GDP. Now, a nominal GDP is going to be the GDP, that number, whatever that dollar value amount is, over a certain period of time, over the course of a fiscal year. Okay, that's what nominal GDP is. So if we were to take a look at the 2019 nominal GDP, you'd see it at about 21 or 22 trillion dollars. Okay. Um, Now, this number is going to